I'm from where niggas pull your card and argue all day about who's the best MCs, Biggie, Jay-Z, and Nas.
Top 5 dead or alive, and that's just off one LP.
I will still be on top.
Trust me, at the top it isn't lonely.
All hail King Cole, first of his name, Long May Reign.
Now I run the game, got the whole world talking. King Culture, everybody wanna cut the legs off. King Culture, black man taking no losses. Oh yeah.
Worth it.
We should talk about that.
Okay. I'm ready.
You ready?
Yep.
Well, I am super hyped for this episode because it is basically the reunion of all reunions. I mean, we should have had the grill ready. We should have fucking had some playing Before I Let Go. Had a 40 ounce. Had somebody flipping some burgers.
I have never had malt liquor in my life.
Me neither.
Oh.
I don't even like beer. So
yeah, we missed the Billy D. Williams influence era. Fortunately.
Oh my God. This is someone who is my top 5.
Thank you.
Marcus Aloysius Allen. The giver of my
Too
moniker, the no name of
Exactly.
podcast.
Yes. Among many.
Welcome, my dear.
Thank you. I am honored. You know how you break up with someone and, you know, you're like a single mother and you're struggling and they have found this supermodel wife and they have, you know, a Bentley and a house.
What?
All these things.
Who is this?
Zoe and I used to record in a Mustang in Brownsville.
Yeah.
With ambulances riding past.
There were so many. Like
it was so many things. So to be here in the studio and they brought us through all of these corridors, it's like wood paneling in here. It's a next level, and I feel like the ex, but I'm very proud. I'm proud. No, this is great. You got to move up. It would be different if we were doing this and then you went to the Mustang, then I would kind of feel bad. But you actually you moved up. Like the Jeffersons, so
I know I'm trying to be like
Weezy.
you. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm sorry. This whole episode is just gonna be me laughing.
So silly.
I think that one of the themes in top 5 is that emphasize is how music brings people together, and I think we should start with how me and Mark met. And I mean, I'll let Mark tell the majority of the story.
Yeah.
But
sure.
yeah, like we could get into how literally our bond was over music.
Yeah. This is a fact. So, I mean, those of you who followed PMTA, the 3 people who did. I'm joking.
Cut it out.
Those of you who were our fans, you are aware of our background. We used to work at a hotel and at the front desk. Mm-hmm. And they gave us the reins over the aux, if you will. Mm-hmm. And so we were the best DJs
basically,
at the hotel.
Literally.
And just her playlists were like kind of, this girl knows her music. She knows what she's doing. This has something that I would listen to. It's not like our other coworkers to where it's like, do you mind if I put on, you know what I mean? You know, you gotta, this is good. Do you mind if next we play this? So she always had good music. I always had good music because that's just how I am. So
no, seriously.
We talked about literally at that front desk 5 years ago,
Mm-hmm. Wow.
about starting a podcast, and then we did so a couple years later, and so brought it to fruition.
Yeah, shout outs to Lee and Lauren for like putting us on the same shifts, knowing we was cutting the fuck up.
Yeah, all the time.
And they were even
great.
joining the conversations.
Oh, yeah, it was great.
But yeah, I wanted, like, and like you said, like even recognizing in each other, like having that ear.
Yeah.
I think that was it branched out into everything else in our life in terms of like our friendship and him being one of my closest friends now.
Absolutely. Earth signs unite. Yes.
Yes, Capricorn and Virgos,
yes.
For those who don't know. So, Mark, like, even just being a person, like, it's not like I don't always have artists on the show, so that's a good thing. We're introducing that into episode 5. What how did you grow up? Like, what music did you grow up around? Like, what was your first exposure to music?
Yeah, I think I grew up like a lot of young black boys in Western Pennsylvania. My first
A lot
exposure
of
to
black
music.
boys didn't grow up in Western Pennsylvania. By the way.
That is not a fact. I mean, maybe it is, when you're comparing
I'm
it to
just
New York
kidding.
City. But yeah, I grew up like a lot of young black boys whose families are from the South.
Mm-hmm.
And so my first exposure to music was church, gospel music. I grew up in church. I grew up around singing. My entire family sings at every function, at everything,
Same.
regardless of what it is. And of course, my mother, being a child of the 70s and the 80s, one of that first generation to really embrace hip hop, introduced me to hip hop and rap music, as well as funk music. And I heard a mix of everything around the house during the weekday. And then, of course, on Sunday, it was all gospel. So
yeah,
yeah.
that's similar to my house. And literally, I just feel like even growing up in that environment, it makes you more prone to being a hip hop head, I guess, in a way, and loving R&B and all that stuff.
I was gonna say I can't claim that title. I think that is yours. I think that people know that you are the hip hop head. But I knew it growing up. Yeah.
What were some artists that you were exposed to growing up that stick out in your mind now as being like cultivating what your ear is like and
That's a great question.
your
I mean,
taste?
Vanessa Bell Armstrong, Daryl Coley, Miss Chalet, Teddy Pendergrass, Aretha Franklin.
Yeah.
So many. Stevie Wonder.
Mark is so young, but if you listen to the music that he listens to on a daily basis, you would think he's 64.
I mean, I think we both agree that the 70s literally is the greatest decade in music history.
No, I absolutely agree.
So I do listen to a lot of things from the 70s, but growing up, I heard a lot of things from the 70s as well. I mean, but it was also a great time for hip hop and R&B. So of course I heard Jodeci growing up, and of course I heard Mary J. Blige, was the 411, and Escape, etc.
Mark loves Escape.
I do. I absolutely do.
I think Mark is one of the people who, speaking of R&B, feels like he's the one of the people that I talk to that feel like we shouldn't sample 90s R&B.
It's so weird because growing up, I had no idea that all of these songs I was hearing were sampling songs from the 70s because I wasn't there, right? But having grown up in the 90s, to hear people sampling Brownstone, or to hear people sampling Aaliyah, or to hear people singing or covering CeCe Peniston is so weird to me, because I'm like, this happened yesterday. I still am one of those people who feel like the 90s are 20 years ago or even 10 years ago, even though now it's almost 30 years. And so I feel like this is too new. And then also it was a different time, right? You have the 90s, you have the 70s, the 60s, 20s on your phone. There's no need, especially for someone like me, as you just mentioned. I listen to older music every day. If I'm listening to Brownstone 3 times a week, I don't need you to sample them in 2019.
But do you think I think the good part of it is that they get their a little bit of royalties from that from those samples, and bring it to the forefront of people who don't necessarily know Brownstone. Like, they know the song, the Brownstone song, because of Tory Lanez now. Which, I mean,
that just crushes my soul. And I really do feel like I'm at that age where you grew up and you heard your parents saying, this is from a certain artist. Like, you don't even know what this is. Or like James Brown, like, this is a James Brown sample, and you were like, but it's hot right now.
Yeah.
I am now that person.
Same.
I am the get off my lawn person of R&B and hip hop. I really am. Like, don't sample this, don't cover this. There are times where it's done well. And there are times where people literally just remade the song and added nothing to it. I mean, but that is music. It has always been that way. I mean, at one time in music, 4 or 5 different people was making the same exact song at the same exact time. So I guess it is different in that way, that people at least wait 2 years to sample something.
Mark is so dramatic.
I am.
I think so do you feel like there's some songs that are off limits in terms of sampling and like remixing and covering?
I do. I mean, my biggest qualm was the whole Rihanna and DJ Khaled sampling of Carlos Santana, which, I mean, obviously Carlos Santana is a genius of all geniuses, but I just felt like it wasn't even 20 years, right, that they waited to sample that song. Like, it had literally been 18 years, 17 years, and they sampled the song, and I'm like, okay, you could have waited at least 20. I think that's my limit. 20 years. Give it 20.
Well, I mean, that's 18 is close to 20. And if you think about it, early 90s R&B was sampling 70s music, which it wasn't even barely 20 years old. It just turned 20 years old.
Again, we didn't have the access to that music every day, right? Mm-hmm. So on the radio... So
you think it's the access versus the actual knowledge of the record and waiting and making it?
I think so. Like, there was no YouTube. There was no iTunes. There was no... If you wanted all of these records, you literally had to have all of these literal records.
Mm-hmm. You had to go and get it.
Actual vinyl records or an 8-track or something from that time, which most people didn't have in the early 90s. I didn't. Mm-mm. And people weren't playing it on the radio because there was newer music. So that exposure to it was completely different. For someone like myself and for you, I'm sure you heard Maria growing up. And when you heard the sample, you knew exactly what it was. Mm-hmm. It wasn't some obscure sample, right?
Right.
So, I mean, Kanye... To give an example, he does it in a completely different way. Mm-hmm. I mean, when I heard Through the Wire, mm-hmm. I knew exactly the sample, but it was completely different to me. Not even that it was pitched. Not even that it was pitched. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he does it in a way where you know the sample, but it's like, oh, this is a great take on the sample. Mm-hmm. I really did feel like it was the same exact song.
Right, the interpretation
so much so, when people would play it, I would be hesitant to do anything because I felt like, is this the song I love, or is this the song that y'all playing with? And am I lying? Like, you would know. And when it would happen at parties, people would play the Carlos Santana, mm-hmm. and you knew it was coming, mm-hmm. that they were going to play the DJ Khaled, and that's annoying.
I think that's lazy too. I don't necessarily want you to go from the older song, the sample of the song, into the regular song, and I understand why, and it's an easy transition. Right. But on DJ's part, that's kind of lazy.
The first 10 times, okay.
Yeah, like, ooh,
but that was the entire summer. Ooh. Like, it was so annoying.
Played by Carlos Santana.
Another one, right? And then, like, it would happen so seamlessly to where you'd be like, okay, we knew this was happening. And I really did get tired of it. But I'm glad, I hope a younger generation was introduced to Carlos Santana and went back mm-hmm. and listened to the span of his discography and was just blessed by it. Mm-hmm. Save his comments about Beyonce that were unwarranted and unfounded, but the music, let's focus on the music. I hope they did learn it.
So even speaking of that, like, just focusing on the music, like, do you feel like it's important for us to separate the art from the person, be like, enjoy the whole person? Like, what's your take on that? Not specifically getting into pop culture issues, because we don't do that here, but sure. More of like, do you feel like there can be a separation of art from the music, or do you think the person is all encompassing?
I really don't think there can be a separation. I think the artist is his or her art. I think they bring the full of themselves to that art, and especially in a time where we have access to information. So, say for example, being a fan of James Brown in the 70s and not knowing his women beating habits, or David Ruffin's terrible habits. Of course, you could just listen to their music, but we have such access to information mm-hmm. to where if you are willfully ignoring this person's abusive or toxic behaviors, you're a party to that. You are complicit in that continuing to happen. And so it is very much part of their art. And you can't really, how do you separate it? It's not, this person is not providing a service. It's not your accountant, that you're just going to him to fulfill your accounting duties, or your doctor, and disregarding what they do at home because you have to. This is the full of that person in every part of themselves. And so I don't think there's a way to disregard it consciously.
I agree.
And morally.
Yeah, I think even, especially in terms of the egregiousness of certain actions that are taken as the person, it's all the same. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think there's anybody's catalog, I don't care like how great you are, that can dismiss certain actions and certain I don't know how to say, like the way that you carry yourself in your personal life. Sure. Because sorry, I heard the mic cut off. Because certain
Michelle Williams, sorry.
Did you just call me Michelle?
I'm just saying they was cutting your mic off like they do Michelle. But yes. No, I agree with you.
No, I just basically don't feel like, I don't think there's anybody's catalog. I don't care how great your music is. If you're a trash person, that doesn't delete how we feel. Like, and that doesn't delete how bad of a person you are, period. Yeah. Like, and I don't think that we should always condone or enable people just because of how great their music is. But
well, yeah, I mean, it's so much to that. So people will give passes to people based on their privileges, their access to privilege. So men, of course, always get a pass in music being trash.
The most.
Whereas women have a much harder time in music being trash. So when Brandy lied about being pregnant, right? That was a huge thing. Or when Britney Spears cheated on Justin Timberlake, that was like an unforgivable moment or thing. Or got pregnant by Kevin Federline. It was just like, how could you even do this? Versus, so many people, Chris Brown beating up Rihanna, people forgave him instantly. Yeah, it seemed like it was instantly, and to this day we'll still defend him regardless of what happened. So, I mean, it depends on who you are, and of course, let's not even talk about white artists' ability to recover immediately, regardless of controversy. Like these people, like, and not to make it a race thing and not to make it a race thing at the same time, but. I think that the absolution or absolving of white artists always ends up being like instantaneous versus the black artists. And even like you said, it's always a level. It's like the white artist, then the black man, then black women. It's just hard to forgive. Light-skinned black women.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is a thing. I mean, the systems of society that enable us to make more money, or that enable us to get jobs, or enable us to pass for certain things, they go into music, because that is part of society. So, for example, someone being gay, right? That's a rapper. That's going to be an immediate.
It's happened.
Yeah, it's like we are completely disassociating ourselves from you.
Absolutely.
Unless you're Frank Ocean, of course. And
even still, that's hard.
Even then, exactly. But
y'all
like it's not the same, right?
Yeah.
But if you are a rapist, if you are a woman beater, if you are anything, a thief, it doesn't matter. Hip hop is going to wrap its arms around you, and they are going to uphold you regardless of that. So, I mean, those systems carry into music the same way that they would any other job or any other atmosphere.
Do you think, I think that one of the pertinent things that we have to address in hip hop currently, and R&B, I think R&B specifically, is colorism. Do you feel like with R&B there is a certain colorism, specifically with black women, that's been perpetuated throughout the years that we don't address as much?
I think this goes back to that point. Anything that we ostracize in regular society is going to be, ostracized in music. So R&B, of course, suffers from colorism, just as pop music does. But in hip hop, it's not devoid of that. I mean, they still are going to uphold women who are prettier, who are smaller in frame. You know what I mean? A big rapper is not going to be as successful as Lil' Kim or Cardi B. Like the smaller women. So if a woman is not your standard ideal of beauty, she's not going to be as successful as those beautiful women who have pioneered rap. Missy Elliott is kind of an anomaly in that way, but
shout outs to her.
Shout outs to Missy, but she was still very pretty. Yep. She's still very pretty. So an ugly woman is not going to be successful in rap. That's just the fact. But yes, colorism in R&B, colorism in music is a thing. Will always be a thing until we can reconcile that in society. So the same people who listen to music are the same people who will say, I don't want to date a dark-skinned woman. You know what I mean? We can't separate those two. It doesn't, again, you can't disregard a whole person because that person's life exists beyond music. And as consumers, our lives exist beyond our consumption of music. So we're not going to say, I only like light-skinned women in the bedroom. But I will completely be a fan of a dark-skinned woman on the radio. That's just not how it's going to work. We carry our whole selves into our consumptions of art. And so that's going to be an issue until we can reconcile it in our personal lives.
I like Mark. I like the convo we're having right now.
Thank you. Why? Tell everybody else.
Why? I heard my mic cut out.
I can hear you.
Okay, I hear myself now. Okay. Can cut that out. But to switch gears a little bit, it's been a big topic on the internet about GOATs in hip hop.
Yes.
Greatest of all time. I mean, not saying that's not always the convo.
Right.
But recently J. Cole dropped his Middle Child single.
Yes.
You had a chance to listen to it?
I did. It's kind of unavoidable.
It is, especially Cole Hive. Yeah,
I did listen to it. I thought the content of it was real. I thought it was real. The messaging of him being kind of in that purgatory of being legendary, of being the Jay-Z versus the 21 Savage or the Kodak, who are still sort of up and coming. I thought that was a real discussion to have. I think a lot of people do consider J. Cole to be this. I mean, he's been in the game, 10 years now?
Big bro and little bro at the same time.
Exactly. So they see him as that, of being that middle, of being on the Kendrick level, the trajectory, the Drake trajectory, that people who have made their mark enough to not be considered novices, but they're also not Big Daddy Kane either, right? So I think it was a real conversation. I hadn't heard that conversation before. Of course, we always hear people say, I am the GOAT, which you're supposed to say, right? If you're a rapper. If you come out as a rapper and you're like, I'm not that good, then you're not that good, right? So you're supposed to say that.
We don't
exactly,
want to trust in you if you just saying like, I'm
okay. Yeah, like what?
I'm all right. I'm all right.
Exactly. It's like, okay, this person is trash.
Yeah.
So it was good. It was a good conversation to have.
Yeah. Interestingly, I kept seeing this tweet being retweeted. It says, quote, J. Cole is the greatest rapper of our generation, period. Y'all can say Kendrick. Kendrick is a great lyricist, but J. Cole makes better music. You can say Drake. Drake makes great music, but Cole is a better lyricist. And Shorty said, at me, I have time. I didn't
She got too much time. Like, it's a lot of time. I don't think people understand generations, right?
I'm so glad you brought this up.
What is of our generation? Like,
I think that people don't necessarily know the technical definition. You know, like, people think 1993 is a generation. Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, if I was born in 1993.
Like, it's really weird. Unless that person is 10 years old, I just think that is very That's a very weird statement to make when there are so many legendary people in hip hop right now.
Yeah, still
in this generation,
and so
like.
And so, how do you think? So, where do you think the generation spans in terms of hip hop right now? Like, you would say, Jay-Z is our generation.
Absolutely.
You would say, Busta Rhymes is our generation.
Absolutely.
You would you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that people don't have the idea that generation is, but I think it's a difference between peer and generation. Like, our peers, amongst our peers, J. Cole would technically be our peer.
Sure. And I mean, there's a difference between generation and era too, right?
Yes.
Obviously, Jay-Z and Busta are of a different era, but it's still our it's still our generation. So it's just weird to hear someone making this claim and then to also go as far as to say Kendrick's music is trash, Drake's music is good, but his lyrics are trash. Like, that's just completely wild to say.
And people were perpetuating this. I was literally looking at my phone, like, and people I respect their music opinion were retweeting this. And I was like, well, if we even, all right, just to break it apart, to say, like, we just disclaimed the generation part, to say that Kendrick doesn't make as great music when his whole Damn album, we couldn't not hear it for the last 2 years, and even Black Panther, like, even bringing all those artists together to have a whole movie soundtrack that's in the essence of our hip hop culture, you can't even say that. Drake is also a great lyricist, so and he's been proving that for the last 10 years. Right. So, I mean, the comparison is a bit of a fail. I think
it really is. And you and I kind of had like a prequel to this when we were talking about this idea of opinion being factual, right? This idea of a subjective feeling being something that you can back up with facts. Yeah. And it's in J. Cole's instance, he's good. He really is good. All of the people named are good. But you can't back this up with facts, right? Yeah, that's kind of annoying to make such a big, bold claim, and this person is not 10 years old, and then to be like, I have time to argue about this. Like, that's really what it comes down to. People just want to argue. Yeah. And it's annoying. Don't argue, just like what you like and go to sleep.
I think there's a thing about the greatest of all time where there's a line of subjectivity and consensus. Like, we can have our personal opinion, like, okay, I like Cole better than Drake, or I like Cole better than Kendrick, but there has to be a overall think and conversation and agreements that we all feel this way. So I don't think that we have to exclude Kendrick because we want Cole to be there can be more than one greatest of all time. Like that. Why does that have to be like?
That's hence top 5, right?
Yes, top 5. Like, you can have more than one person that's your favorite, and that's one thing that I want to perpetuate in this podcast, and it's a constant theme. Like, I think also, like, everybody has a phone. So it just makes, like, you can make bold claims like this and they can go viral. And everybody can, like, without actually breaking down the thought, they can be like, oh, yeah, like, yes, why?
I agree with that. There is no critical thought. People don't even think before they tweet, right? No. Like, or wherever they have a platform. It's just blurting things out. It really does become annoying because it devalues speech. It devalues when you actually have a point to make, because people are always saying trash on the internet. When someone actually comes up with something that is substantive, that has facts behind it and research behind it, that is a historian of this particular music or art, it's disregarded as the same blurting out or trash. When in reality, this is a well-studied opinion. Yes. This has data to back it up. And you're like, this is just your opinion. It's like, this is my opinion, but this is based on research and literally quantitative data showing that this happened.
Data.
No, I'm just saying.
No,
like,
I agree.
This is like
1,000%.
I literally sat and I tallied the number of times this person, was able to do this or was able to accomplish this, or even lyrically what they said and what it meant and how that worked within the confines of poetry as an art. Like, it's just like this is art, and I'm telling you this based on decades of research in history and what categorizes rap music or hip hop music or poetry or whatever. I'm telling you this based as someone who has actually done the work. You're telling me this based on the feeling you had after listening to 2014 Forest Hills Drive. Like, that's just really annoying.
And I think that goes into my critique of J. Cole fans. Let me be very clear, because you have to be clear in saying things like you just said.
Yes.
I am a huge J. Cole fan. Like, Mark knows, we were just listening to J. Cole on our way to the studio.
Yes.
I've been to countless J. Cole shows. I love Dreamville to the death.
Fact.
I'm a huge fan of Boss. Like, this goes unsaid. My problem's not with J. Cole. It is with his fans. I think sometimes, and some of my best friends are huge J. Cole fans. And I may or may not be talking about y'all. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah,
Games.
I think the biggest critique I have of J. Cole fans, like Dollar and the Dream people, I don't even know what you guys call yourselves, Cole World. I just have a problem with the just impulsive claims that you guys make every time that J. Cole drops something, because not too long ago when it was For Your Eyes Only, which admittedly was critically not on the bigger scale of J. Cole projects.
Sure.
Everybody was like, oh, J. Cole, like, this album is kind of sleepy. Granted, it was a little sleepy. There wasn't that much drums, and what it was produced by Cole. Yes, like, we can critique GOATs. Like, do you feel like we can critique, like, we have the ability to critique people as an artist that we put in these high categories and
absolutely,
pedestals?
especially when they are. So for me, I don't consider J. Cole, I do consider him to be middle child status. I don't consider J. Cole to be this GOAT level, right? So for me, absolutely critique them so they can get to that level. Now, if someone was out here critiquing Barb Streisand, now I might have a problem, right? You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like
really
there is a
Cole to Barbra
I'm just saying. Okay, that was a little random, but
Barb.
I just feel like when there's a GOAT and they've already proven their worth, of course they become a little off limits, right? When you are a middle child, yes, you can be critiqued. When you are the youngest sibling, absolutely. Like, I don't see J. Cole as being off limits from criticism because he literally just got here.
Yeah.
To me.
And, like, what are our, like, what are the factors, the check boxes that we list for someone who's a GOAT? Like, I would say your catalog. Like, if we think about J. Cole's catalog, we have the mixtape Friday Night Lights. We have, what's the one with the crown on it? Like,
oh yeah, with
that
the little black.
Yeah.
I can't even
with
think
Illuminati.
of it.
Why I can't think of the album title?
I can't either. I'm trash.
But yeah, 2014 Forest Hills Drive, For Your Eyes Only, KOD. Like, I feel like Cole just got into his groove in terms of making great albums, and his first album and his sophomore album were amazing projects. But I don't think that, I think it's an anomaly that artists can be great on every album. Like, Jay-Z has 11 albums. Like, we not hailing all of them as top 5. You know what I'm saying?
Does he have 13 albums?
No, but I'm saying
okay.
this. I'm sorry,
okay.
Not specifically to say that he has
14,
11.
sorry.
Yes,
sorry.
I'm not specifically saying that he had that number, but
Yep.
I'm just saying, like, if we're just talking about his solo projects, everything can't be upper echelon.
It can't unless you're Beyonce, but that's everybody's not Beyonce, right?
Okay,
So-
for those who don't know, Mark is the El Capitan of the Beehive.
I'm really not. I just speak truth. And I just think that's the truth. No, I mean, Beyonce's had her duds too. You just can't. Everybody can't be great, right? It's not a reality. Yeah, I think I agree with you that, catalog is important. I think also proven time in the game is, GOAT level. You can't just release this one great album either. And this is not, to be clear, this is not a dig at Lauryn Hill whatsoever, because I do consider her a GOAT, right? But you have to have spent time, or even that catalog has had to spend time in the industry as being heralded as something that is timeless, that is incredible, that is incomparable. No one else has done it. No one else that has done it did it before you, right? It was new, it was unique. And I think those qualities, both catalog and time, have to be proven before you can even have a discussion about being the GOAT.
And I think Cole knows that. And I think that's the interesting part about it, is that, and what I love about him is that he's very aware of what, since from the beginning, you can hear him talk about, he's a stream of consciousness type of rapper. He will tell you where he thinks he is in the game versus projecting what he is. What I'm saying? Some rappers be like, yo, I got this, I got that. He's like, yo, there's so many songs where you can, J. Cole's like, nigga, I just was broke last year. I had student loans. I just took, he's literally that type of guy. You feel like, what rapper is talking about their student loans? It's only J. Cole. But I think he's relatable in that way. And I just feel like maybe Cole fans should just take it down a second. I think, and when did y'all care about lyrics? I just want to just bring that up really quick.
Well, I mean, I think there is, sorry to cut you off, by the way. Were you finished with that thought?
I mean, I just wanted to know when. How come, since when are we being, in this generation of J. Cole is a better lyricist? And even so, you discounting Kendrick's lyricism, and I just don't know.
I think there is a desire amongst people whose favorite artist doesn't get the recognition that someone else in the industry is getting. Right. So with Kendrick and with Drake, obviously they are not only regarded within the culture, but the acclaim outside of the culture, with Grammys, with VMAs, with things of that nature. They get that recognition that J. Cole is not seeing. Obviously, Kendrick has been Album of the Year nominated every time for every project, including Black Panther, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
That he's just, he's like the Stevie Wonder of rap at this point, right?
He really is.
So, he hasn't won, to be clear. But yes, but he is regarded within the industry as being this very high quality level. Drake the same way, and obviously his pop music helps in that way. But yeah, I think when your artist is not up there, when they're not getting this recognition and this attention, there is a need to inflate their contribution to the culture. And we see this in R&B all the time. With Brandy fans who, they really do think that she is the only person to ever make R&B music.
Oh my!
And just list, facts from 20 years ago and 30 years ago, and just everything that she's done, and all of her music,
even if it's great, wrong, and even if it has typos,
even if it has typos, and it's exactly, and so it's just like, Brandy's the best streaming artist of all time, or this is the best album. So it really, I think there is a feeling that if your artist does have skills, and J. Cole and Brandy both do, but they don't get the recognition that these other artists do, and so I think people inflate those feelings because they're really passionate about it and they want to see them on that level, and I think they will get there. But I think both of those artists are honest with themselves enough to know, as we've seen with Middle Child, to know I'm not exactly there, but I am worthy of being there, and I'm working to get there.
I appreciate that. So, this is the favorite part of the podcast.
Oh, yeah?
When we ask our guests, who do you consider to be your top 5 favorite GOATs?
Yeah, so
In hip-hop.
In hip-hop, yes.
Because I know Mark was about to go to Bronx. He was going to go
I
to
wasn't.
Rita.
I mean, I would. No, I
Nippy?
figured this was hip-hop. You said Nippy? Yes. Obviously, I love Hove. I love Biggie. I'm a huge Busta fan, as you know.
Yeah, you guys
Huge.
have no idea how much of a big fan that Mark is of Busta Rhymes.
I love Lauryn Hill. I think Lauryn Hill is phenomenal. And 3 Stacks.
And yeah, 3 Stacks.
You know, that's like my heart.
I'm trying to think, has anybody on the show mentioned 3 Stacks?
If they haven't, we have to cancel the show. Sorry.
I'm concerned. I need to.
Whoever fired Roseanne, we got to bring him in again. We got to cancel this show because this is unacceptable.
Don't cancel my show. Cancel them.
All right. You get a pass.
No. And what about these artists make them the GOATs to you?
Great question. I think with Jay-Z in particular, I am always fascinated. Obviously, there is the obvious of off the dome, right? I don't write anything with a paper and a pen type level of genius, but I'm fascinated with his ability to play on words, his consistency with his brand, his story as being coming from Marcy Projects and selling crack.
Even saying
White
that
Lexus.
the other day.
You know what I mean?
He's
Like, yeah,
literally
like
I'm from Marcy Projects.
Exactly, and his brand has remained consistent. I am very impressed with his the coolness of his delivery. It's just very, very relaxed, very cool, and it still punches so hard.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it punches, because it's just like 21 Grammys. I'm a savage nigga. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, this is what it is. Yeah, I love him for that reason. With Biggie, I think he was one of the first rappers that I remember really saying, wow, this is good stuff. I mean, not saying that the people I heard before weren't good, but up until that point, up until the mid-90s, the rap I heard was just, this is my mom's music that she's listening to.
True,
right?
true.
The Fat Boys and Heavy D.
Yeah, it's just like,
you know, it's like, okay.
I love Heavy D, but anyway.
This is good.
Yeah.
But I really felt like Biggie was one of the first rappers that I connected with as making music that was really, really impressive. And the culture that he was speaking of here in Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn was something I was completely taken by.
Yeah.
Give me the loot and who shot you and all these things. I was just like, this is some crazy shit that this man is talking about on this record. And I was completely taken by it. And of course, I mean, his delivery, as Jay-Z has been inspired by him, was just very, very alluring to me and very winsome to me. And I was just like,
that's a pun you don't even know is a pun.
Yeah.
Jay-Z allure. Anyway, go ahead.
Exactly. You're right. No, I got it.
Punchline on duct tape.
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm surprised we didn't talk about the Barbs this episode.
I know. For a good reason. With Ms. Lauryn Hill, I really do. I mean, you know how many times we have played... I'm getting my lyrics mixed up, but I mean, Miseducation in general, we've played it so many times and just dissected the level of lyricism that I really do feel is uncredited because it was a single album. I mean, people can obviously go back to the Fugees' 2 albums and really understand what Lauryn Hill was contributing to that group, but just in general, she is one of my all-time favorite rappers, lyricists, producers, incredible all-around artist. And so she's GOAT level to me until the end of time. Like I really don't see anyone taking her spot, and I'm always there defending Lauryn Hill as not just a female rapper, but as a rapper who has truly contributed something to the culture. And I mean, I don't even have to get into 3 Stacks. You already know I have for years stated why 3 Stacks is the GOAT. And Busta Rhymes, it goes back to that time thing. I feel like Busta to be 25 plus years out here, more than that, way more than that, almost 30 years out here truly being... When I heard him on the Bubbling remix, I was just like, this man is insane. And it's been 30 years.
Yeah. Yep.
He's still insane.
Yeah.
I mean, despite the rapid fire flow, he's just really that great.
And I don't even
He's
think,
amazing.
Yeah, I don't even.
In fact, and
take
it's still
that away from
amazing.
it. Yeah.
Like, it's because, you know, like, as someone who has gained weight, like, just being able to breathe is a...
Oh, my God.
It really is
I swear to
win.
God.
But this nigga, I mean, I don't even think he breathed. Did he breathe?
No.
He didn't take a breath.
Since Dungeon Dragon, Scenario in '93, he hasn't taken a breath.
He doesn't breathe, and it's impressive. And so that's why I love those people. I probably took too long. What time is it?
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
So on that note, I'm introducing something new to this segment of One Gotta Go.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Out of those goats.
Oh my God. Oh wow. Oh.
If you ever had to,
wow.
to eliminate one of them, and you could live the rest of your life, I know.
Wow.
That was
Okay.
disrespectful.
All right.
So yeah, Hov, Biggie, Lauren, Stacks, and Busta Bus.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay, I would have to like throw everything I've ever heard from them away.
Yeah, nothing existed.
Okay.
Everything ceased to exist.
Yikes. Okay. See, I didn't know. Like, you even sent me notes, and I saw One Gotta Go, but I didn't know it was in relation to this.
I know,
right? Like, this is quite serious. Okay, I'm going to be destroyed online, but I'm gonna have to say Biggie, and I have a good reason.
Okay.
Because I feel like, well, no. My reason was I still get his lyrics and some of his delivery through Jay-Z. But if Biggie was gone, Jay-Z wouldn't have those lyrics and those... Oh, man. This is serious.
I can't wait to do this.
No, this is very serious. I am going to have to say... I'm going to have to say, I'll say Biggie. This is terrible. This is terrible.
Explain yourself.
Well, I've lived with the other people longer. I've already dealt with Biggie not being here for over 20 years, right? So I've already dealt with Biggie not being around.
Right.
And I've always listened to his music in retrospect. I was a much younger person listening to these songs and just growing up feeding off of these songs. And so I've already suffered that loss in a way, and it's still very nostalgic to me. With these people, I feel like they still have so much to offer still. Like they could come out with something new that will still pique my interest.
Except Lauren not coming out with nothing but
when she did the Nice for What remix live, incredible.
Yes.
Incredible. So like I feel like these people still have more to surprise me and more to give. And if I were to remove them, then I wouldn't get that. So Biggie already gave me something. And I am, though sad, comfortable with removing him from that list. That's terrible. So I'm crying for those of you who don't know.
Well, I am so glad that you were able to get yourself through that.
Yes.
And I'm glad that I like that challenge now.
Very challenging. Wow. Now it's going to be easier for the other people. They're going to think really hard. Like, they're just going to put somebody random in there and just take them out.
Well, then that would be
I'm joking. It's not going to be easy.
Don't play
It's not
with
going to
me.
be easy.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
Either way.
It's very hard.
But yeah, I'm so grateful that you came to do the show with me.
Very honored to be here. Yes.
And although your mixtape is not dropping,
Not this year. Not this year.
tell the people that where they can find you, and just to hear your opinions about life and music and what you're listening to.
Yes. Well, I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram.
Recently back on Instagram.
Recently back on Instagram. One picture, but I'm going strong.
Drag her.
I'm on Twitter. It is MXRK_ALLXN. So, Mark Allen was taken. Obviously, it's quite a common name. But you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Cash App.
You can find me on Cash App.
SoMark on Cash App. No X's, just SoMark. Send me money if you've been blessed.
Yeah, send it and put my name on it. He can send it to me.
I will share 10% of these earnings with Zoe. I am accepting love offerings.
Oh my God, I love you. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
And I think that your opinion was very needed, and people don't know that you're a music savant. And that you are a connoisseur of all things wine and R&B.
Yo, new bio alert everywhere, LinkedIn included. I'm taking it
Please
over.
do put it on there. Let the professionals know.
Yes, music savant and connoisseur of wine and R&B. That is impeccable. Thank you.
He gives me a moniker, I give him a bio.
Thank you.
Here we are. Shout out to y'all, the goats, for listening. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Zoe_Veranda. Make sure you're following Top 5 by Zoe on Instagram for all updates and the show clips. And yeah, we'll see you guys on the next one.
Yes, you will.
We out.
Bye.